So, here's a question for you. When it comes to the media you consume, are you in the driver's seat or are you just a passenger along for the ride? Today, we're going to dive into a theory that totally flips the script on how we think about our relationship with media. For the longest time, the big, scary question has always been, does the media control our minds? But what if that's not even the right question to ask? What if we actually have way more say in this whole thing than we've been led to believe? You see, for decades, the main idea was that media worked like a hypodermic needle, just injecting messages straight into our brains while we sat there passively. But then, some researchers had a revolutionary thought. They stopped asking, what does media do to people, and started asking, what do people do with media? And that one simple switch changed everything. This journey from seeing the audience as passive to seeing us as active is the core of a really powerful idea. So let's dig into where this theory came from and how it puts you, the person watching, listening, or scrolling, right in the middle of the action. It's called the uses and gratifications theory, or UGT for short. And the idea at its heart is actually pretty simple. We are active users of media. We don't just sit back and let it wash over us. Nope. We actively go out and choose specific media because we want to satisfy a specific need. We use the media to get some kind of gratification. Make sense, right? Now, this theory didn't just pop up out of nowhere. You can trace its roots all the way back to the 1940s, when researchers were trying to figure out why people were so hooked on radio soap operas. The idea really started picking up steam in the 60s, and then in 1974, guys like Elihu Katz and Jay Blumler made it official, really cementing this concept of an empowered, active audience. Okay, so for this theory to work, you gotta buy into a few key assumptions. First, we're not just mindless zombies staring at a screen. We have goals when we pick our media. Second, that show you're binging has to compete for your attention against, well, everything else. Napping, talking to friends, you name it. And maybe most importantly, this theory says that you, the audience, are the one who decides if a piece of media is valuable, not some fancy critic. So, if we're using media to get our needs met, what are those needs exactly? Well, the pioneers of this theory broke it down into 5 main categories that pretty much explain why we do what we do. Let's get into them. All right, first up, there's the cognitive need. This is all about learning stuff, getting information, think reading the news. Then you've got the affective need, which is all about feelings. You know, watching a sad movie to have a good cry or a comedy to laugh. Personal integrative is about building yourself up, boosting your credibility or self-esteem, maybe by following an expert in a field you're interested in. Social integrative is huge. It's about connecting with other people, like when you all watch the same show so you can talk about it the next day. And finally, there's good old tension release, just wanting to escape, relax, and zone out with some music or a game. You can kind of think of all your media options as a big toolkit. You wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer a nail, right? Well, in the same way, you probably won't pick a heavy documentary when all you want to do is unwind after a long day. You instinctively reach for the right media tool for the job at hand. But what happens when the tool you choose doesn't quite do the job you hired it for? This is where the theory gets even more interesting, because it looks at that gap between what we want and what we actually get. And this is the difference between gratifications sought and gratifications obtained. Sought is what you hope to get. You know, you turn on the news thinking, this will make me feel informed. But what you obtained might be the total opposite. Maybe after watching, you actually feel more stressed or confused. And that mismatch, that gap, is super important because it's going to shape what you choose to watch next time. See? This is the active audience in, well, action. It's this whole cycle. First, you actively select what you're even going to pay attention to. Then, you interpret what you see through your own unique lens. And finally, you only really remember the parts that are useful or meaningful to you. It's a constant loop of choosing, evaluating, and learning. So this theory paints a pretty rosy picture of an empowered media consumer. But let's be real, are we really all powerful? Like any good theory, this one has its critics and its blind spots. So let's do a little reality check. So some critics argue that UGT might give us a little too much credit, and it kind of downplays the massive influence that media companies have. I mean, are we really choosing freely, or are we just picking from a menu that they created for us? It also assumes we always know exactly why we're doing something. But can you honestly explain why you just spent an hour scrolling through random videos at midnight? And finally, a lot of the research relies on us telling them what we do. And let's be honest, we're not always the most reliable narrators of our own lives. Okay, so keeping all those critiques in mind, Why does a series still matter so much, especially right now, in this crazy, crowded media world we live in? Well, here's the real takeaway. The uses and gratifications theory is a powerful reminder that behind every hit show, every viral video, every song you can't get out of your head, there is a fundamental human need being met. Any media that doesn't serve one of those core needs to teach us, make us feel, connect us, or help us escape is probably media that's going to fail. So I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you unlock your phone or turn on your TV or open a book, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, what job am I hiring this media to do for me right now? Are you hiring it to make you laugh? To teach you something? To help you feel connected? Because understanding the why behind your choices, that's the first step to really being in the driver's seat.